Luring had served as expedition xenobiologist for 3 centuries. She had cataloged species across 40 systems, but nothing prepared her for Dr. Fiona Cross. The human arrived on the research vessel Quantum Drift with minimal fanfare, a small woman with dark circles under her eyes, carrying 2 duffel bags and a battered thermos. The Galactic Survey Corps had assigned her to study the crystalline organisms of Theta 9, a routine mission. "You look exhausted," Luring observed, her mandibles clicking with concern. Fiona smiled, a strange baring of teeth. "Jet lag. I'll be fine after some coffee." That was 3 standard days ago. Fiona had not slept since. Luring species required 12 hours of rest per cycle. Most spacefaring species averaged 8 to 14. The expedition's VR-TOC engineer needed 16. Sleep was universal, the biological tax all complex life paid for consciousness. Yet Fiona worked through the first night analyzing samples, through the second night calibrating instruments. By the third night, Luring found her in the lab at 300 hours, eyes bloodshot, hands steady, running complex protein simulations. "Dr. Cross, this is concerning. You haven't entered your quarters in 72 hours. Fiona looked up, took a long drink from her thermos. "Oh, I'm fine. Humans can go about 3 days before serious impairment sets in. I'll crash tonight, promise." 3 days. Luring felt a chill ripple through her exoskeleton. Most species began hallucinating after 30 hours. Fiona did sleep that night for exactly 4 hours. Then she was back in the lab. The crisis came on day 17. Theta 9's electromagnetic field spiked without warning, frying every circuit on the Quantum Drift. Life support failed. The main reactor went dark. Emergency batteries gave them 48 hours of oxygen, maybe 60 with rationing. The nearest rescue ship was 90 hours away. The crew gathered in the emergency shelter, bioluminescent panels casting pale light on frightened faces. "We're dead," whispered Talvar, the VR-TOC engineer. "The radiation shielding is offline. The reactor is sealed behind maglocks with no power. We can't access it to restart." Captain Vreen, a decorated Kellier commander, clicked her mandibles in distress. "Even if we could, the startup sequence requires constant monitoring for 18 hours. We'd run out of oxygen before." "I can do it," Fiona said quietly. Everyone turned. "The reactor restart," Fiona continued, standing up. "I can stay awake for 18 hours. That's not even pushing it for humans." "But the radiation," Luring protested. "The shielding is compromised. Anyone working in there would be exposed." "Yeah," Fiona was already pulling on a pressure suit. "But 18 hours of rads won't kill me before the job's done. Might give me cancer in 20 years, but I'll worry about that later." The casual way she said it made Luring's blood run cold. Captain Vreen intervened. "Even so, without power tools, you'd need to manually override the maglocks. Each one requires 70 kilograms of force sustained for 40 seconds. There are 12 locks, the strength requirement alone." Fiona finished sealing her suit. "Humans have good endurance. We used to hunt by literally chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're not strong, but we can keep going. What's the alternative?" No one had an answer. Fiona entered the reactor chamber alone. Through the suit cam, they watched her work. She bypassed the first maglock manually, hands wrapped around a mechanical lever, pulling with her full body weight for 43 seconds. Her breathing grew labored. She moved to the second lock. "Dr. Cross," Luring said through comms, "your heart rate is dangerous." "It's fine." Fiona's voice was strained but steady. "Humans can function at 160 beats per minute for extended periods. Our cardiovascular system is built for persistence." By the 5th lock, Fiona's hands were shaking. By the 8th, she was breathing hard enough that Luring feared she would pass out. By the 12th, Fiona braced her feet against the wall, screaming with effort as the lock finally gave way. The reactor core lay exposed. Fiona began the startup sequence. Hour 3. Fiona's movements grew mechanical, following her checklist with robotic precision. Hour 7. She started talking to herself, working through complex calculations allowed to stay focused. Hour 12. Fiona sang. Lurine later learned these were called work songs, rhythmic chants humans used to maintain morale during tedious labor. Hour 15. Fiona stopped singing. She sat perfectly still, watching readouts with hollow eyes, occasionally making minute adjustments. The silence was worse than the singing. Hour 17. Hey Lurine, Fiona's voice cracked. Tell me something, anything, I need to hear another voice. Lurine talked about her homeworld, her research, her fear. Fiona listened and worked. Hour 18. The reactor hummed to life. Power flooded back through the ship. Oxygen cyclers restarted. Lights blazed. Fiona emerged from the reactor chamber, face pale, hands trembling, eyes red. She had received enough radiation to guarantee illness. She had pushed her body beyond any reasonable limit. She had saved 17 lives. In the medical bay, while Lurine administered anti-radiation treatments, Fiona finally explained. We evolved wrong, she said, voice hoarse. Earth kept trying to kill us. Predators, disease, weather, other humans. We weren't strong enough, fast enough, tough enough. So we developed something else, the ability to keep going when stopping meant death. We learned to push past pain, past exhaustion, past common sense. She held up her shaking hands. We have chemicals in our brains, adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, that let us override our body's limits. We can force ourselves to stay conscious, keep moving, keep fighting. It's not that we don't feel pain or exhaustion. We do. We just decide it doesn't matter. That's horrifying, Lurine whispered. Yeah, Fiona managed a weak smile. But it's also why we made it to the stars. We're the species that looked at impossible odds and said, not good enough. We'll do it anyway. Later, after Fiona had slept for 16 hours straight, Lurine found her in the observation deck, staring at Theta 9 swirling clouds. I've been researching human history, Lurine said. Your species has a pattern. You attempted things that should have killed you and somehow survived. Ocean crossings in wooden boats, expeditions to frozen wastelands. You climbed your highest mountains before you had proper equipment just to prove you could. Fiona nodded. We're a stubborn species, also kind of stupid. No, Lurine's voice was firm. You're something else entirely. Every species in the galaxy learned to accept their limits. Humans learned to ignore theirs. She paused, choosing words carefully. When I filed my report, I added a recommendation. Humans should be assigned to every deep space mission, not because you're better than us, you're not, but because when the universe says impossible, humans say, watch me. Fiona laughed, the sound tired but genuine. That might be the best description of humanity I've ever heard. 3 months later, the Galactic Survey Corps made it official. Human specialists became mandatory on all high-risk expeditions. They were the backup plan for when everything went wrong, the species that could function on willpower and spite when logic said they should be dead. They called it the Sleepless Protocol, after Fiona's 18-hour vigil. But the alien crews knew what it really meant. If you wanted someone who would refuse to give up even when giving up made sense, you brought a human. Because humanity's greatest strength wasn't intelligence or strength or speed. It was the magnificent stupidity to keep fighting after any reasonable species would have quit.